Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Autopsy with Maddee P. I'm your host, Maddee P Girl. What is cracking, queen? Last week, we talked a little bit about food and bev. I said a lot. Okay, I'll try to refrain today. I'll try my hardest. Really? That was like not. Anyways, I talked a little bit about food and bev, and I don't know. I wish there were some things I said that I didn't say. Yada yada. So we will discuss it again. But I do think if you are sober, thinking of getting sober, struggling, or you just recognize that you drank way too fucking much in food and bev, go watch it. There's some good tips in there. Anywho, today, I guess I'll start with a few warm-ups per usual. I don't have too many. I am glowing, I'm happy, and I'm getting out of the rut. As you know, I come here all the time and I tell you exactly what the fuck is going on. Not much has changed. I was out of town. I'm feeling better. That shit had me. When you go out of town so much, when you're like a homebody, you have your schedule, you have your life, you get drained so easily. I was not sleeping well. I was struggling to sleep. And let me tell y'all, sorry, I just tried a protein sparkling water. I know. From Costco. If you watch my Costco haul on TikTok, you saw it. And 30 grams of protein, 130 calories, less than a carb. I know. They're actually really good too. I thought that shit was going to taste horrible. It was good. But it placeboed me, and I feel like I've had 4 energy drinks. And I've in fact had one Bloom several hours ago. So, not sure what's going on there. But back to the sleep situation. I have always struggled to sleep. Since I was a kid, I'm flipping, I'm turning, my mind is racing. And it was really bad during active use. When I was an alcoholic towards the end, I would just chug until I went to bed. Like I would clonk out until I had no choice but to black out essentially and go to sleep. And when I got sober, it got a little difficult. We've talked about it before, a lot of flipping, a lot of turning. Okay. And my mind nowadays is as calm as I can get it. I meditate. Y'all know swimming is really good for me. Lap swimming, that's a good tip if you have problems with your thoughts and calming your brain down. Hardcore cardio is really good for that. My brain gets empty to a point where I'm just thinking about breathing, and I need that. Points in life where I simply think about existing and about breathing, if that makes any sense, have really helped me. Okay. But I think I got it under order because the Kourtney Kardashian's brand, Lemmy, I thought that shit was a ploy, but I'm allergic to antihistamines, and I have this reaction where I have an adverse effect to things that are supposed to make you fall asleep. They wake me up. I don't know. And I'm allergic to antihistamines, so I think that was, with a lot of allergies, you have the side effect of impending doom. That's a horrible side effect to have. Impending doom and just like horrible, scary thoughts. Like I can't describe the feeling that I have whenever I take an antihistamine. It's terrifying. And I have taken sleep aids in the past that have caused me to react like that. And then I'm up all night, not only up all night, but like with this like horrible feeling in me. And it is the closest I get to like literally screaming and throwing a tantrum and crying. It's so bad. Don't know why I exposed you to that part. Anywho, the Lemmy, I kind of researched and found out that people do not often have that adverse effect. With other sleep aids, it's very common. It's all across the board. It's like kind of like take it at your own risk. And I am too afraid. And as you know, my neighbors are loud. Sorry. And so the Lemmy has really been working for me, girl. That shit gets me out. I do wake up the first 30 minutes of my life every day is like kind of horrifying. And I feel exhausted. And I am somebody that I set an alarm for in the morning, but I work late and I do a lot during my day. So if I hit snooze and wait a second, it's because I know I shouldn't be awake. Like, you know, when you wake up and it's just like, I need to go back to sleep. I know that exists in my life, simply in my life, because I'm exhausted. So I try to continue to let myself sleep a little bit. And I have been doing that with the Lemmys because I'm so groggy. So I'm kind of like not able to feel out my body the same as I typically would. But I can make myself knock out. So I have that an hour before bed and then a bedtime tea. And what I've been doing is I changed to, instead of like I used to watch a few episodes of something and then start reading and winding down. Now I've been watching TV in my living room I don't know why I'm telling you this. I just feel like it, okay? Because I feel like other girls struggle to sleep, and it's a nightmare. It's horrible. But I moved to the couch, and I'm watching Emily in Paris right now. It's actually pretty good. I love Lily Collins, though. God bless her soul. To the Bone is one of the best movies ever. And just kind of have my tea there and wait till my eyes get like a little heavy, and then I move to the bed. Because y'all know, one of my favorite tips in life is, and I think I got this from a book I read, I don't know, or a podcast, I'm not sure who gave me this information, but to really separate your life. The kitchen is for eating, the desk over there is for my work, couch is for chilling, bedroom's for sleeping. I was really strict on that in the beginning of my sobriety, that everything I did was in those quarters. Now I slip a little bit, and y'all, if you see my TikTok, I eat in bed sometimes. Sorry, don't care. It's my bed. Not under the bed, not in the sheets, but on top of my comforter, I sure do. It's white. I sure do. And, sometimes I work in here. Sometimes I eat on the couch. Sometimes it's a little different. So I'm getting back on the wave where everything is in its place. It helps with my rhythm of my body. And this kind of is like bringing me into what we're talking about today. So I'm going to stop because I do have a few warm-ups. So it's important, though, for my body to be regulated with like a schedule, my physical body with my cardiac, you know what I'm trying to say, the rhythm? I can't remember right now. I hate when I edit too. I'm like, bitch, it's this. So I need that rhythm in my life, the sleeping and the waking at the similar times and things like routine and the structure my body needs to follow. So I'm getting back on that grind where we're strict. Y'all know we're strict over here. I'm sorry, we're strict over here. Now, a couple of warm-ups for us. I don't have many, but and if this is crooked, I'm going to start screaming. And I'm pretending that it's not right now. But if it is, I will scream. I'll start screaming bloody murder. I will. So the other day in the Americas, we had the Aurora Borealis. I don't know if you guys care about that as much as I do. Aurora Borealis has been on my bucket list for forever. I just simply cannot imagine seeing that. And y'all know I'm a space girl. And I feel like that's the closest that I'll get to seeing something so cosmic. And the fact that a storm in the cosmos caused something so beautiful on Earth, I know that shit is gorgeous and like devastatingly gorgeous. The way that Mother Nature is supposed to be. We talked about this on the episode where we talked about seasonal depression, of Mother Nature being like ruthlessly beautiful is one of my favorite things. And it's a metaphor, so cheesy, don't give a fuck. It's a metaphor that I carry into my life, where just devastatingly beautiful and wrecked. And it's kind of like the cheesiness of like a broken heart. Like all the pieces fit back together though. Like, I don't know. And like the powerfulness of beauty, I think. Like the power, things can be beautiful and have power, and you cannot walk away when they're devastating, like a cosmic storm. I'm getting real cheesy today. I did not eat mushrooms. Once again, I'm having to clear that up. I'm not high. Thanks. And I did not get to see the Aurora Borealis. I was pretty devastated by that. The first night I didn't know what was going on, and I'm mad at myself for that because I typically know the space news, and I did not know that it was happening. I'm giving Hunchback of Notre Dame. So I didn't get to see it, and the second night I tried, and it just didn't come out to play. But the pictures in like Montana, and there was some in the low country too where I live, and it was just like insane. And I was researching is, I should not use that word. That's not what happened. I chat GBT'd, and I've been using chat GBT now, y'all. I don't want to talk about it. And got into a little rabbit hole where like the lowest that it's ever been like kind of recorded in history, as far as we know, there was like accounts in like Ecuador or some shit, or even further down. And there was like a bunch in like South Asia that they saw the Aurora Borealis. And back in the day, they were like, God's sending us a signal. And I understand why. I can't lie. Like, y'all know I'm not that religious, but like, I'm very realistic when it comes to nature too. I think things happen on a different clock than we understand and we live on, because we're not, like, we are part of nature, but at the same time, it's a different like species somewhat than us, like all of nature. I sound crazy. So I just thought that was so interesting. and like the cosmic storms that we could see. And it's sad because it was like actually dangerous for us, I think, like the rays that were like protruding from the sun or wherever that came from. And I didn't know. I was researching this too, why do I use that word? I don't know. Like, I'm literally not in STEM at all. I sit here with this fucking microphone. But I really want to see it, obviously, as stated before. And in Anchorage, Alaska is actually the number one place to see the Northern Lights. And if you were actively looking for like 3 days or something, I can't remember, X amount of days, you have a 90% chance of seeing them. Like, you can just go out at night and you see them during the season. And the season is like October to May or something, depending on where you are. I thought you had to go to like Norway and shit to see it. I'm dumb for that. Like, I've always wanted to go to Alaska. So, but I want to be on the East Coast. Like, it's a lot cheaper. From here. No, I'm just talking. But if you did see it, I'm extremely jealous of you. Second point. And I don't even know why I wrote this down. The last penny was minted. Like, okay. The fuck am I going to do with that information? And does that mean my pennies, they're still going to be circulating for how many years? I got to know. How long does something circulate after it's stopped being minted? 30 years? They circulate for 30 years. Oh, wait. Oh, never mind. They usually circulate for 30 years before being retired. What? That doesn't make sense. U.S. Mint removes them from circulation to be melted down. So the average lifespan of a coin is 30 years. That's interesting. And it's been a long time coming. Don't we pay more to make a penny than a penny is worth? What kind of fucking logic is that? Like, I feel like if I was the government... I heard it when it was coming out. I heard it. Just the government as a whole, right? Like, with the really dumb shit like that, I would just be like, just cut it out. Like, I'll pay for it. Like, I don't know. Cut it out. That's stupid. So, and I don't like the word minted. I don't know. Something about that. It's giving basil. Doesn't make sense to me. I shouldn't have used that as a warm-up because, you know, some of the warm-ups that I use make me sound really dumb. It's just because I don't think about it until it's sitting in front of me. I don't think about this shit until I'm sitting here talking to you, girl. So, and then the thoughts come out and, you know, I'm just a few steps away from understanding and being like, I was fucking dumb, but I just don't quite make it on camera. So, we're done with warm-ups. That's all I could take today. Today, we are talking about how I personally built a mindset that cannot be broken. That's how I feel my mindset is. We have talked about discipline before on here. And discipline is very different, I think. You have discipline once you've built the mindset. And it's hard with the mindset because, like, how do I get there? And I want to expose you to how I did it because it's like, where do I even fucking start with this? So it's like I say, maybe you say over and over, tomorrow is going to be a different day. I will be better. Everything that we talk about almost is definitely easier said than done. And, you know, discipline is just obeying behaviors. That's what discipline is. And in some beautiful way, obeying that and what you choose, what you want your goals to look like is a way of surrender. And for me, surrender became very important in me moving forward in a way that I wasn't going to be the same and changing in a way where shit gets done, period. And where my mindset is being rebuilt because I can't take it anymore. And that all comes, and y'all know I'm a big fan of honesty. I talk about honesty. I talk about accountability. I think they're both super important. They're pivotal in my entire life, my sobriety, and everything that I do, my relationships, across the board, everywhere. And that's what that takes. And when you hit that spot where you're willing to let your ego dissolve just a little bit, you can surrender easier to shit like this. So I urge you first and foremost to work on your ego and look yourself in the mirror in a way that is honest and true. And is like, I can't keep fucking lying to myself though. And from there, it's much easier to just obey what you have set out for yourself. And I think that's the first and foremost step is surrender in all aspects of whatever you're trying to achieve in your life. This episode today is clearly for people who struggle with procrastination and determination, honestly, and getting shit done in life. I was not always a type A person. I made myself into a type A person. I made my brain this way. I was never this accountable, this consistent, this determined. This is not how I was. I was just to kind of like give myself some credentials in this space, because I don't like those videos where people are trying to help you, but they are kind of coming at you, and they are already type A. They were born with this brain on determination. They were born in this way that allows them to view life a little differently than people like us. And I built this, as I repeat myself. But so a little bit about me, kind of my history with all of this, was that I was always a procrastinator. Always. Because repercussions meant absolutely nothing to me. I did not care. And honestly, sometimes if shit slid and shit didn't get done, then I didn't really care. And I had already in my life, I gave up on myself, I feel like at a very early age when it came to stuff like this. Like not very early, like high school on, I just kind of gave up on myself, that I expected out of myself to make the wrong decision at some point. So if I set a goal, I knew that the failure was coming within a few weeks, and it would make it easier to just give up. And I don't know how to kind of like describe that better, but I knew at some point I would fail. So it made it easier to like skip the workout, skip a good meal, have a drink, whatever. And today, the way that we were discussing this and this mindset is not only having to do with sobriety. I think some of it is based in sobriety, but it is also based in like maybe diet, exercise, whatever facet that you struggle in and you are looking to achieve something. And most of my like desires to be better were rash. They came after a bout of extreme failure. In terms of drinking, I would just have like a horrible night out and the birds would be chirping and I just felt that pit in my stomach of just like doom and despair. And then instead of jumping on the horse the next day, I would take the day to recover and do whatever I needed to do. And then by the time that third day rolled around, I'm like, what the fuck was I even talking about? Honestly, like what was I on? And I think part of my honesty and part of what really helped me to becoming a new person that chooses better actively all the time in my life was that I had to accept that I quit and that I'm a quitter. When things get hard, I run. And I did not stick around for people, for things that I wanted in my life, for my body, for my mental, for drinking, nothing. It was never an issue, I say again, for me to give up on myself. I had already done that. I don't need to please myself. I don't need, honestly, anybody to fucking care or be proud of me. And that's so sad now because it is an important root in my life, and I've talked to y'all about it before, is the importance of others being proud of me really worked in my sobriety, because sometimes it's not enough for me. I'm not enough, and pleasing me sometimes isn't enough. It's different now, but it's important to make people proud now. And that also came with care for others. And until I got really honest that I'm a quitter and that I run away, and those are embarrassing facts to face. That's not easy to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, you're a quitter. You're not a real one though. Like you're not a grinder. It sucks, especially when you think you're one way and you're not. The truth is that you're not. And it took a lot of strength to do that and to be honest with myself in that way, but it was definitely important, and it would impact my life for here to come. And this is a point too that with my history that is just a little bit strange, but I'm very honest and vulnerable about this stuff because I know somebody understands where I'm coming from, and I want to be there for you guys. So I had this thing where I thought my potential would carry me to success, essentially. And maybe some future version of myself would get it and get that. Like things would click and they would choose better and eventually go get that. And I counted on that future version of myself. And so for some delusional way, that was in terms of my body, in terms of my job, in terms of passion, everything. I just assumed at some point she would get it. And now that I'm sitting here talking about it, that low-key did happen. But that's because I built it. And ultimately, my potential meant absolutely nothing. No work going into it, it meant nothing. That I thought maybe God or the universe would carry me, and that there was this destiny surrounding me in this very egotistical way, that I was destined to have money. I was destined to have notoriety. I was destined to be this great person and deserve all this in life because I thought I was so special. And that's a massive ego to feel that way. But I genuinely thought that, the clouds would come in and swoop me up and drop me off in this mansion where I'm meant to be. And I know for a fact other people have to part with that. But it's delusional, egotistical thinking, because I think so many people believe that. Just like so many people believe that they should be famous. And it's just like not realistic, because we all think that we're so unique. And we are. We're very unique from each other, but not that type of unique. And I think because we're different and we feel so different from society, we forget everyone else feels that way too. And so we don't work. And that is just a thought that I had looking back to how I used to be, that I thought others would align with. And somehow, I had zero confidence, I still felt entitled. And I felt like I deserved things that I just simply did not deserve in life. And there were, for years, I said I'd be better. For years, as do a lot of people. It would take minutes for me to give up on a goal. I would jeopardize my job, my relationships, so much of my life, parts of me, literally parts of me, for a drink or for a good time. It would be so easy for me to drop every single goal. Like, things would just get difficult and I just wanted to go have fun. So I'd jeopardize a relationship, whether that was with a man or a friend, and do some fucked up shit because I wanted a good time. And that is just like, it's interesting that I come on here and I do come clean of that. But it's part of my recovery story, was that I was a nasty person and I didn't do some good things to people in my life that I wish I had. And it is important that I'm vulnerable about that, so you can see the cost it takes to move forward and grow into a new mindset, because transformation is all about that. Yeah. So basically I was not born like this, and I do not have one of those type A personalities. And I wanted to touch on too, when it comes to creating a mindset that is just unbreakable and that is just full of determination. I struggle with mental disorders. I have struggled deeply with mental disorders for as long as I can remember in my life, into early childhood. Like, pretty much any memory, like the earliest memories I have are tainted with what I can see now as mental illness. And there is a misconception that you cannot get out of bed, that you cannot do certain things. And it's this label that we put on ourselves when we have mental mental disorders, that we cannot get things in life like other people can. And I sided with that for a long time. I did honestly, I knew it was my personality deep down, but I chalked it up to it being my mental disorder. And my laziness was actually just a side effect. And like, some of that may be true, but it is still my personality though. And mental disorders aren't who I am. That's not my personality, but to some degree, that's how I live my life daily. So it is a piece of me, because that's how I live and how I go about things. And it takes a lot of time, but you can change a lot of aspects about you. And I do want to point out that it is so possible to become a type A person, to be disciplined, irregardless your mental handicaps, your mental disorders. And I don't mean that to sound insensitive. I understand, like, there are certain parts of depression, certain parts of certain anxieties and stuff that are very difficult to overcome and very difficult to be active in. But for me personally, what I have found is that I just take more time to remain disciplined and to remain type A. I have to do things a little differently than a lot of people do who are disciplined and who want a different lifestyle. And listening to people talk about it sometimes doesn't work for me, because these are people who maybe don't struggle with that inherently. And so they go about it as kicking their own ass every day. And that's not a sustainable way of life for me. It's not something that can work for me personally, because I struggle. And if I don't want to get out of bed and I don't want to brush my teeth, how am I going to choose what's best for me? And how am I going to have this mental thing where I just can't be broken, or I'm a winner now? How do I make a winner out of myself when I can't get out of bed? And I really had to work with myself very closely through those times, because it was really hard because I also see a huge shift. And the point of all this is consistency. And that we're at a baseline level that comes a lot easier for people who are not mentally struggling. And I had to find, there are periods of time where I would be doing great, and then there's a block of time where I'm struggling because I'm going through something mentally. And I'm working tirelessly to fix that mental thing, but there's a block in my consistency. And so I feel less than when I'm trying to achieve a new mindset. And that was something that I had to rethink and kind of redo. And any time that I've gone through any type of mental episode, I did this week. My lack of sleep simply was big enough for that. And that's because I struggle. And I felt like a pussy because I didn't sleep a few nights. And so I felt like a fucking pussy. And I'm like, why am I literally borderline losing myself over this? Like, I was so anxious. I can't describe to you the way I felt. And I really had to work with that instead of kicking my own ass. And I know that I say that a lot of times when we talk about stuff like this, but it is so important that during this time, I am my own best friend, because I just went to the gym with my best friend. She can whoop my ass in that gym. And I love her so deeply. And that's the kind of like attitude that I have to have with myself when I move forward in anything, but especially in stuff like this. There has to be like this friendship mentality, almost like a relationship, where I push myself, but I'm also there for myself at the same time. And that took months and months for me to create. And I think it has really, really catapulted me into my new mindset, because that block of time that exists in my consistency, I view differently now. It is me having to focus on my mental health and having to focus on one small part of my big picture and one small part of my routine. And that's why when I talk about this too, mental health comes at the very first of my positive mindset. And not necessarily just positive mindset we're talking about today, but consistent mindset, the new mindset. Mental health is at the very front of that, because I can't move forward without a healthy brain. That's not how I operate. I just kind of went on a tangent about that, but I wanted to show also sensitivity, because I do understand that it is extremely difficult, and I don't want to be naive to that. And I want you to be able to take away what you need today that allows you to feel inspired to move forward at whatever capacity you are at in your mental issues. And it took a lot of work for me to become this type A person with those handicaps. Yeah. So sometimes things may look different for me, but I do it. I fucking do it. And I kick ass doing it now. And it allowed me to see a lot of signs in myself too. And that's what I struggle with. I don't know if you've heard me talk about it before, but I do struggle with mind and body aligning. That is something that I find is an issue with other addicts that I talk to as well. That, because we experience the high in our body and our brain shut off for years, or vice versa. And so that connection is often off for me. And this is what really allowed me to align the two and to start feeling out things. And that was also hard. People say, feel it out, listen to your body, listen. I can't. I tortured her. Like, she's not sending me signs. And I'm at this place with my reward system that it just doesn't exist when I get sober. And there's just like, it feels whack. Everything feels all over the place. And this is what allowed me kind of to feel myself out. And I also want to make it clear that that wasn't an easy process for me. And a lot of people would say that as if it was so fucking easy to hear their body. And I couldn't. I just wasn't in alignment. I wasn't in tune. And I was suffering at the hands of other mental disorders that just made shit really confusing for me, because I also felt out of touch. These people are talking about it like it's fucking so easy for them. And I think a lot of people say that, but they don't recognize what they're saying. They maybe say, listen to your body, but they don't know until they're sick that they're sick, And so I just want people to feel comforted in that way, because I was embarrassed to admit that too, because I felt like, oh, I must not be in tune. And it's simply like everybody works different. And I definitely felt less than, because I couldn't do that the same, and I wasn't in tune. So I don't know. I don't want you to feel that way. Yeah. And as somebody with substance use disorders as well, I defied myself constantly during this transition of gaining a new life and a new brain, and against all odds. And that is something that you can do too with mental disorder, with substance abuse, with anything, that you are all odds defying what they are telling you to be, what they're telling you that you were going to end up as. And I listened to my disorders for so long and what they were going to make me, and almost like cower down instead of trying and being like, no, I'm defying that shit. I defied my substance use. I didn't think I was ever going to stop drinking, stop using coke, stop doing the shit I was doing. Never. I defied every single odd in that case, and it allowed me the strength to defy every odd in terms of my mental disorders. And once you break that mold too of defying all odds against yourself, and you don't have to suffer at the hands of something to do that. That can be your own personality, your own thing that you've dealt with, because we have been this way for years of our life, for forever. And you don't just teach a dog new tricks. That's not how it works. That's what I mean by defying all odds. Breaking your mold in that way where you can truly become somebody new is what it took for me. And once I did, there was no going back. Shit didn't look the same for me anymore because it was beautiful, and because finally I had broken molds that I never thought would be broken, and I didn't want to go back. So, and I think it's important to remember during this time that you are creating entire new neural pathways. The patience that is required. You are genuinely changing your brain, and that is the aim here. And that is what I'm talking about in terms of mindset today. Not, I'm going to remain positive, I'm going to do the shit. No, you got to break that shit. You got to break that mold, and you have to change the actual pathways of your brain, which to me felt more comforting and felt easier because there was like this science behind it that it made sense why I was so broken. And things were so clear to me in that realm. And it was so much easier scientifically to move forward than it feeling like a mess that I couldn't clean up. And that did provide me with a touch of hope that I hope you can carry. My reward system, like I said a little bit ago, was completely and utterly shot like to shit. It was non-existent. And it was painful. Somebody who, if you've experienced something like that, and I don't know if, I'm sure nowadays that's not just a substance use thing because of our phones and stuff. I'm sure a lot of people face that. The life that I was living, just, I had nothing. And it's so depressing to walk around with no reward system. And like, there's just no happiness that can come because you've overused like everything and you're just shot to shit. And it's just like a sad, bland life that isn't like, you're not pumping endorphins, you're not experiencing this joy that other people get to experience. And that was definitely a hard part of my early sobriety. And I won't talk too much on this because that's not what today's about, but where I felt that it was my fault that I wasn't happy and that, you know, my life isn't beautiful anymore because I don't drink, and I felt as though it was my fault. But like from a medical standpoint, I didn't have the chance. And I'm not glad that I wasn't more expressive about that, and I hadn't learned the importance of vulnerability necessarily yet, but you know, in some ways that it gave me like the sense of hope too. I don't know, where when you're that low at the same time, there is something that exists that you know for a fact things will get better. It's just like, it's a fact. When it's that low, it's simply a fact. So I had to adjust, and many of you might have to, with the reward center, that you go through a small period of pain with that, A. But B, now I have one reward. That will be happiness, hopefully, at some point. And thankfully now you see me smile, you see me glow, and the way my life is now, I was definitely united with that happiness. But that would be how there wasn't a reward system. I wasn't going to get any small fix the way that I used to. And, you know, that's just like, was difficult. Obviously, I don't know. So yeah, readjusting to with that one goal in mind, and that's joy. That's not what I look like. That's not how much water I drink. That's not what time I go to bed, how many hours of sleep I get. It's not all the shit that you think it is. It's simply peace. And all of those things align sometimes in most people to create a peace. In terms of drinking, I didn't get to come up for air, I guess. Like, as cheesy as that metaphor kind of sounds, but there wasn't a break. Like, not holidays, not birthdays. There's not a day that I get to quit the way that I used to. And I wouldn't just get to give up like I had expected of myself. And that was because I was making other people proud now. And then also I was gaining a new expectance out of myself. Expectance, is that the word? Out of myself. Because I had proof that I could be more. And other people that had done it were proof to me that I could be more too. And when people say, if I can do it, you can do it. It didn't click until I got into recovery, that was the fucking truth. That was like the cold hard truth that I could do it. For me, sobriety obviously was going to be nonstop, back to back days, and there wasn't going to be a reward associated. And that's the thing. I've talked about this before too. The reward doesn't come. Those little things don't make you feel better. That coffee, that thing people talk about, that type of reward, when you're shot to shit like that, it doesn't work. And you just kind of have to live with that for a while, because you do regain it. I think there's 6 months till alcohol leaves your body. And I don't want to repeat myself too much from past podcasts, because we are already talking about discipline in a way. But your brain, it's not possible for a cute walk or a nice coffee to be the same as a shot of tequila or a hit of Coke. It does not work in the brain. And I was really hard on myself for that too, because I was like, okay, I'm going to look for the little things. I'm going to be more grateful for the little things in life. And it didn't work. And I felt like shit. And that was because, scientifically speaking, it was not going to work. I was trying to fit a circle into a square. And more than anything, this new life, all this was about patience. And that was something that I also never had. And that's pretty much a same staple to a lot of people who don't want to give up. That's the same personality trait, who do give up. Similar personality trait, the patience thing. We don't have patience. We want it now. We want it immediately. And for me, in my alcoholism, I have the disease of more. I will always have the disease of more, and of everything in my life. And so having patience was fucking it was a project, but I knew going into it, that was the one thing I have to do, is to have patience. Yes, I need to work on myself mentally. Yes, I need to do all this shit daily. I can handle the little tasks of life. This huge thing of being patient is the one thing that I need to do right now, that I know I don't want to do, that is going to change my life. And it did. And I didn't just get sober. That was the best thing I've ever done in my life, yes, but I changed my finances. My credit score was horrible. I had no money. I owed people money. My finances were all over the place. I got all that shit in order. I saved money. And then I lost a lot of weight. And now I have muscle. Y'all know it's the juiciest my ass has ever been. I can't even lie. And fix my sleep schedule. My life is so different. It was a lot more eventually than just getting sober. And this, now I even became a very clean person. And I don't know, some things I think were underlying of I wasn't even who I was at the end, because I was so messed up and so sick and deranged that I wasn't even Maddie anymore. And so, parts of this could be that I unloaded and I could just be myself and be actually who I am as a person. And so me being clean, that could have been an attribute that I kind of already had before, but I just didn't do that because I wasn't me anymore, if that makes any sense to you. So, but yeah, I basically became type A from being a type B. That should be the name of this, because that's literally what happened to me. And looking back, one of the biggest transformations in all of that and in everything was that in my personal sobriety, I could not cut corners. There is no way to do that. I had always cheated, cut a corner. And in sobriety, I can't look over somebody's shoulder. I can't ask my friend for the answers. The answers to all of sobriety is within, a lot of it. And it's not I can go study. And when we cut corners in sobriety, we risk the potential of relapse. That's just how it works. There is no cheating. And you have to do everything right, and to this T. And that's, a lot of times it's out of desperation, because I wanted to live. I truly wanted to live. And it introduced me to this new way of life of not cutting corners that I was sloppy before. That was never something that I could endure. So yeah, this was the first time that something in my life required all of me. And I had a moment where it clicked one day driving. A lot of things clicked for me driving, that this sobriety thing had to be everything for me. And I decided to do that. So I'm just going to do it. And I just knew I couldn't be okay, I'm going to go to this amount of meetings. I'm going to try to balance this life. And it's just it wasn't realistic. This has to be everything for it to fucking work. And from there, I think it set up my healing in general, because there's sobriety and there's healing. They do coincide. They are similar, but they're two separate things, right? And the beauty of sobriety is that we get to do it through healing. But you don't have to be sober to heal. And so my healing would now revolve around not cutting any fucking corners. And that set up too for this new brainwave that I would get to become, this new mindset where I don't cut corners. Now I'm not expecting myself to fail. Now I'm not lying to myself in my fucking face. Like, these things are slowly what adds up to become the new mindset. I half-assed everything. All the fucking time. I half-assed everything. If the coach isn't looking, I'm stopping running. Period. Like, what'd you turn around for? That's your fault. Like, if I can half-ass it, I'm half doing it. Slowly, when I made a promise to myself, it truly meant something. And more than that, it was because, too, I could trust kind of this future version of myself. And we talked about her a little bit ago, but it was an expectant, egotistical thing. But now the future version of myself, I'm talking in the close future, because every day is a day by day. Every day is one day at a time. There is no expectancy for her in the future. But again, we set her up in hopes of her choosing the right thing. And every day I'm waking up and I'm sober. And every day I'm waking up and I'm choosing a healthier option. And so I can slowly trust that she's going to keep the ball rolling, which is something I couldn't do. I would get so invigorated and so excited about something and just quit. And I needed to trust that future version of her to keep it going in the steady, consistent way. So now I'm going to kind of get into, not step by step, because I think everybody's brain is so different on how I got the new mindset, but what worked for me in like a mechanics sort of way, I guess. So I think it all started, a new mindset for me, with a morning routine. People hate to hear me fucking say it. I say it to people when they talk to me and they're just like, I fucking get it. No, it's so important. And I'm not talking doing your skincare and shit. A morning routine where for me, that was meditation, never skipped. It was slow bouts of consistency. Meditation was the first thing in my life that I never skipped every single day. Ever. That was medicine for me. And that was the very first thing I did. When I woke up, meditate. I would do it before I even got out of bed sometimes. And that was the most consistent thing, and has been one of the most consistent things through my sobriety. And it proved something to myself. But anyways, meditation, journaling, and then I did a gratitude list. And many of you know what a gratitude list, 5 things that I was grateful for, and I can't recycle some of the same things. If I have to sit there and think about it, I fucking will. Because filling your brain with gratitude scientifically too is counteractive to anxiety. So they can't exist. They can't exist in the same brain. It's just something that they can't do. And so it was very important that I started my day like this. And then I would pray too. And the rest of my day might not be perfect. That could have been maybe the only thing that I did great all day. And then I would, of course, partake in some AA literature, stuff like that. But we're not here to talk about that. And anonymity girl. So, but I would, what was I saying? Yeah, basically the rest of my day could be shit. But those few moments in the beginning of the day were the beginnings of actually changing my pathways in my brain and seeing life in this new way and being consistent for the first time with stuff. Okay, and then now we're getting a little more to, obviously, mechanics, like I said, but kind of into the health side of things. So if you don't know, I now am to a place, I swim 2 days a week and I weightlift 3 days a week. This has been going on for several months now, and I drink as much water as I fucking can, usually a gallon, and I'm to a point that I eat so healthy that my dessert is granola, bitch. Like, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because I always wanted to be this person, and I never thought I could. So these are kind of like healthy steps to a new mindset versus us talking about sobriety right now, because I don't want you to get mixed up and think that I'm saying sobriety is about health, because that's not necessarily true. It's about mental health, but like, yeah. Anyways, so kind of incoming this fit person in a way that it started very, very one thing at a fucking time. This is not a rush. And when we rush, we fail. And that's how I had to put that in my brain. Rush, failure. Rush, failure. This is about patience. This is a longevity situation. Longevity starts with so much patience. This is a setup for your brain, and an expectancy that you have for yourself in the future. So one thing at a time. I wanted to get my sleep schedule in control, and I wanted to read at night. I wanted to not be up all night, and I wanted to be able to fall asleep at a good time. And I really loved reading, and I wanted to re-implement that in my life. People say 10 pages, blah, blah. When you're looking at things like that, you're Googling things, read 10 pages. You're it's like scattered. There's so much shit to do. Instead of this being a part of your cycle, where reading that's something you get to do at night. And if you have a good enough book, sometimes, shit, girl, I skip something to read. Or that sounded so country. Sometimes that sounds so country. Or I'm choosing my free time that I maybe set aside to watch a movie to read. And just because I simply like the book. So that was something I first implemented, was sleep schedule and reading at night. Very simple. Very simple. I did this for a few weeks. The next thing kind of came along where I got a gallon jug. And I was consistent. I was reading at night. I was able to sleep. Consistently, I was able to drink that gallon of water throughout the day. Or close enough that I was satisfied it was close enough to the gallon of water. And this one is kind of like a strange thing, as I often say strange things here, that I started implementing green juice. Do I think green juice does that much for you? I don't know. I think it does, but like enough to change your life? No. Change your body and your mind? No. It's good for you though. And I was consistently hitting that green juice every day. I have always been a healthy eater. I struggle with eating disorder as well. We'll get into this. We have more to say. So those were some of the first things I did. And these were important habits that I was building, really, because they were requirements. And we don't move on to the next new thing, the next thing we add to life until these are requirements, until this is just part of how our day works, until the habit is kind of formed. And after, like, that was like the very introduction to becoming type A, to having a new mindset that could not be broken, was these requirements for myself. And then I went into, as you all know, the 10-minute Alexis Ren ab workout. She's a superstar. She's literally a runner. She's a track star. I love her so much. But it was something I had to do. 10-minute Alexis Ren ab workout. My day could be busy as fuck. That 10 minutes is happening. Period. I am doing that workout. And so those few things there over several months of time were what set me up for this healthy and exercise and active filled life that it's a lifestyle now. It isn't me dieting. It isn't me choosing health. It's a lifestyle that I live, that I get to live, that I love, absolutely love to live. And I would have gotten completely overwhelmed and quit so easily if I would have done those things not one at a time. And because there's a sense of accomplishment that comes with actually drinking your green juice for 2 weeks in a row, or actually having your gallon of water every day, or hitting that Alexis Ren ab workout. Though they're small feats and they might not mean too much in the grand scheme of things, those habits that I still have to this day meant so much to me. And that accomplishment alone allowed me to strive forward. And not only to mention, yes, there's the workout and how well I eat, and that I eat to fuel my brain and fuel my body. But then there's also, I read and I sleep. We talked about it earlier, the best that I can. And I do a good job doing it. And the healthy habits that are in my life go way far outside of working out and all this shit. It reaches it's all encompassing. It reaches everything. Which is not to sound braggy. It's just, that's what we're aiming for, is that new mindset. That's proof of it being a mindset and a lifestyle versus us doing things because we want to make ourselves. Then we get home, we just want to fucking lay on the couch. And not there's anything wrong with that whatsoever, but you clicked on the video. That's what I mean by mindset, is that this is an all-encompassing situation that I live in now. And I knew all of this stuff, especially when it came to the healthy eating, I knew it would be normal eventually. And I had gone through very many periods of my life where I ate really healthy, where I binged, and I do have a history of eating disorder. We'll get to that part in a second, I swear. But I knew that if you eat, it's kind of like if you eat healthy for long enough, that's what you crave. And that's how I live my life now. And I just knew that to be true. And this obsession that I had with these timestamps and like giving myself the grace, I think that was how I microdosed patience, honestly, was accepting the change. And for like time periods, this period of time is going to be like this. This period of time is going to be like this. And it's kind of like a microdose of patience. I'm not on drugs. Did that make sense to you? And that is how I kind of got to the point that now it's so easy for me to go every single day. I get up and I go with the plan. I don't go with my feelings. I don't go with what I feel like, how obviously I take space, certain amount of space that some people don't because of those mental disorders we talked about earlier. And that breathing room that I have with myself that I encourage you to take that allows me to keep it a lifestyle. But at the same time, obviously if that's out of hand, but my normal feelings, the way I do shit, no. We go with a plan, period. And it's easy for me to do that now. And I think that's where determination is different than choosing just a healthy lifestyle in a way that you always go with the plan. And no matter what, you go with the plan. And that is just how I live my life. That was also me basing my life around structure and early sobriety. I think that was a benefit to me because I had everything written down. It was so scheduled. My life was so to a T. And it had to be that way to survive. And naturally, that's kind of like how I live my life now. I structured myself that way. Now, the exception of this too, the way I pointed, but the exception of this as well is that it is important to recognize in myself the only time that I don't go with just the plan, like I just talked about, is where rest is required. This comes few and far between for me because like I said, rest is important to me. It's part of that, like part of this lifestyle. It's one of the most important things is recovery time. It is the most important, honestly, rest. And if I don't feel that that's there, that is when I take a step back. That is the only occasion because there has to be breathing room and like there has to be something that comes first. And that's where for me personally, mental health comes first. Somebody else might not say that to you. Somebody else might say, no, you keep going even when you're tired. And that's not how I operate because I need to protect my mental health and because I do put rest ahead of anything else. And I think that's an important distinction to make, that you are building your own version of this lifestyle and what is allowing you to have longevity and allowing you to change your brain. And I think the fact, I say again in a way, that the fact that I had to be sober, that there wasn't breaks and all this stuff definitely transferred, obviously, like I said, to this new lifestyle of mine. It's just another day that I have to get through sober. And there is an underlying factor to that exists in my life that I think I do benefit from in terms of lifestyle, that's what today is about. And that's why today is celebrated for me. And I don't think other people get that opportunity, that this is a day that I live sober. And that is something I think about when I wake up, the driving factors throughout my day, the most important thing that I protect, and then also the biggest thing that I celebrate every day is that I made it through another day. And it's obvious, right? It feels like, yeah, no shit, you're sober. That's how your life works. And it's just not the truth. I never know when a day comes that I just feel like an impending doom. And I'm not scared for that. I'm not scared for that happening. I do feel secure and much more maintained in my life and my mental stuff. But there's a little bit of fear that I think exists in every sober person that wonders if they can really get through this. And that if everything that hits them, everything that happens to them, they can get through. And the point of my sobriety is my mental health, first and foremost. And for my brain function is why I'm fucking sober. And that's more important than making sure I do everything to a T right in my sobriety. And although I try to, and that's something that I do strive for, I come first. And that's what sobriety taught me, was to choose myself in these radical ways, that I want to change my brain function, that I am first. And I'm not saying ahead of other people. We know the importance of helping others and all that shit. Really, I'm second. Really, I live for helping others, but I choose me. And that's what I did from the second that I picked up that fucking white chip, is I chose me. And that's what the rest of my life would look like. I just kind of went on a tangent, but basically too, I choose what's best for my body and my mind, not my ego, not my fear, because I'm living out of fear. That's what I do. That's my default mode. My default mode is fear. And when I'm living out of fear, I can't be bold. And that's what a lifestyle like this requires of me. Radically changing my brain to a new perspective, it requires me to be bold. And to break that mold that we talked about earlier of yourself. And I can't do that living of fear. And that's why I choose mind and body before I choose ego. And that was a big distinction that changed my life too, of just choosing those different things. I can now feel and see and understand what my ego looks like and my fear. And I don't put a big X around it and blame it. It's my natural. There's an episode on this too. It's my natural reaction to humanity is to act as such, to act on ego, to act on fear. That's my natural state. that is what humans are for. We used to be fucking hunted and all this shit, whatever, right? So like, how can I blame her for being so afraid? Like, and it makes me emotional because I spend a lot of time doing that. And that is just like it's just not who we are anymore. And that's a big difference in the representation of my mindset. It's just not who I am anymore. That person is that I was is not who I am. And that's my greatest prized possession, as we all know. But winning over your brain is really a journey, and it is something to be so proud of. It is the best decision that you can ever make for yourself. I would never go back. I know I can't drink. I know I have certain restrictions. I know I have to work closer with shit. I would never go back. I would choose this over and over, and you can too. Learn how to understand patience. Learn what that looks like for you. And there is a way that you can live the way that other people maybe live that you want to live, if that makes sense. Like, holy shit, you get what I'm trying to say there? There is a way for you to do that. And there's a way for you to be your own version of type A, because that's kind of what I am. I don't deserve a prize because I did the right thing. I don't get a fucking cookie. And now that's a little bit different for me. Now I do sometimes because I achieved a lot. But for a long time I did not. I wasn't deserving. And I know that sounds so hard on myself, and I don't want to entice you into those behaviors that you're unkind to yourself like that. And that kind of situation, but I didn't deserve it. I had a lot to recover. I was not good. And I didn't get the fucking cookie. And I kept fucking working. Mind, body, spirit, period. And all, eventually all those healthy days add up. And all the days sober add up. And until you can trust that you make the own healthy decision on your own, you make that decision, you can't be trusted. And I had to consciously be there. Now these things are innate in me. What I crave is fucking vegetables. I want sobriety. I want this stuff. That's because I didn't leave her alone to make the wrong decision. I couldn't be trusted. I needed supervision on my own in my own brain too. That I would just make that decision. And I knew one day I would. This unbending faith that one day I would, and it worked. And, this comes to part two where, and this kind of comes to like food, I guess, and the exercise and stuff and my lifestyle. I had an eating disorder, several in my life, and restriction does not work for me. It is not allowed in this house. It is not on any front, and over exercise. And like, if I skip a workout, and it's beautiful that I live in this healthy life without feeling the need for a restriction, and that I get to fuel myself, and that I get to go exercise. And if I miss it, I miss it. If something better comes up, sorry, because I'm not like bogged by the eating disorders anyways. And yeah, so when it came to healthy eating, like I had to keep that at bay. There wasn't going to be this allowance to starve myself, which is cutting corners again, which is in a new mindset. We don't have that. We are strong, and we're strong-willed. We don't cut corners. We don't cheat anymore. And like, not to make an eating disorder sound bad, that sounded kind of like in my personal brain. That's how I viewed it, is what I'm saying, was that I didn't get to have that cheat mode anymore. I just had a for real diet and for real exercise while fueling myself, because I can't fall back into those behaviors, because who knows if I drink again. Right. And like, I don't want to be sick, and having an eating disorder is a sickness that's similar to alcoholism, to addictions. It is an addiction, and that is in a way a relapse for me. And you guys know the whole situation with that. So it's important that also comes first. It's part of the mental health situation, was with the ED. And so I found recipes. I had to work a little harder. Another example of that, where I wanted my treats. So I did something a certain way, or I made a recipe fun, and I'm just like doing certain things that allow me to enjoy it and not feel like I'm restricting myself. And that was keeping shit new. And that might not be something for everybody, but I think a lot of people struggle with eating disorders when it comes to diet and exercise. And that might not be something that they always have in their life, but they cannot diet without, or they cannot live a healthy lifestyle without restriction. Like, they can't picture it. And that is not what a healthy lifestyle is. There is no room for that, actually. In a real healthy lifestyle, there is no room for that. We fuel our bodies, period. We fuel our mind. We take care of ourselves. And I don't know. So I don't think it's weird to talk about that, because I think disordered eating is across the board. Maybe it's not an eating disorder, but it's some sort of eating that is just wrong, and over exercise and stuff like that. And everybody has that food noise to some extent. I urge you to kind of identify that in yourself too. It doesn't have to be as big of a label as an eating disorder like I went through, or maybe it is. And I had moments I talked to you about in my sobriety where I woke up and realized I had a fucking eating disorder. And I cried on my bed to my friend about it. And I was like, oh my God, I can't eat anymore. And I'm dealing with this again. And like, it sucked for sure. But I urge you to kind of like make sure that your mental health is at the front face. I'm repeating myself, but at the front face of all of this healthy lifestyle. So now finally is the true secret of all of this. The true secret of my lifestyle. You ready for it? Acceptance, queen. So instead of saying, I need to lose weight, no, I need to accept her for how she is. I need a new job. No, I need to accept the way my life is right now. I need this. I need that. No. The answer to fixing shit is accepting it. And that's not being BS and accepting bullshit, but accepting where you are in life. And you will grow and you will change, but for the meantime, you have to be cool. And that really comes with body image too. I really had to understand that. I don't need to, the work that I need to do is not on my physical body. It's on my mental body. That's what I need to do. I need to understand that she is where she is, and she is beautiful for that. And now we're getting a lot into food and stuff, but that's a big part of my life and my journey. And I don't need this whole new outlook right now. I need to accept where I am and growing this new mental thing. And that is the secret to the patience and to growing a new mindset for yourself. Because the fix is the appreciation for me now, not that I wouldn't be fixed till this is all fixed. Yeah, all this was worth everything. And I am unbreakable in my determination, not because I'm scared that I'll fail myself, but because it's fucking normal for me. And this is the way my life looks. Every day, this is so normal for me. And like, I was talking to my friend about it today. She's like, you do so much before work. And I'm like, yeah, it's normal for me now. I used to make myself. And if I just chill, I kind of am like bored with it. It's not that I'm like, oh, I could be doing more. It's not that experience. It's like, why though? I'm kind of like fucking bored with it. Like there are some days where I want to choose that, and I do. And that was part of me understanding, listening to my mind, body, and spirit. That took some time, but it's this way of life now. That's why I want others to view all of this as a lifestyle. And like, obviously it is viewed as that, but like, it's you changing your own life, and it is obtainable. So, and remember during all of this, if I didn't say it 50,000 times, mental health, okay? Mental health, physical health, spiritual health. That is all important. And I didn't even mention too, the spiritual health that remains with me to this day that you already know about. That being an aspect too, and all of this was extremely helpful for me, was remaining balanced and praying to something. Sometimes I didn't know what the fuck that was, but keeping contact with what I felt kept me sane was super important and allows me to glow in a way that I never have before. So I urge you to find patience and strength, and you can change your life. You in one little corner of your life at a time. Basically, you don't have to, so my camera died, obviously. Basically, the thing where everyone says, do this, do that. You need to do all these fucking things in a day. It doesn't work. Make it work for you. You can make a new brain and a new lifestyle work for you that you can be proud of and that you've always wanted to chase. Everything is achievable to you. So you don't have to keep making excuses. I love you very much, and I hope you have a great week.